Unscripted, unshackled, uncouth.
What you're about to hear is for more mature audiences only.
It's Miguel and Holly, Uncensored.
Before I say my preamble, I love how every single time when I press the intro for the podcast on the video, Holly looks like I have come through her headphones and punched her in their ear hole.
Well, you have.
I always
loud.
give you the warning before we go. I say, turn your headphones down. The intro's coming.
I forget. You didn't do it this time, but I also forget.
We've been doing it for almost 10 years.
I know, I just forget. And then I never expect it to be that loud. And it's so loud. It's like right in your ear hole.
Oh my gosh. Well, welcome to Miguel and Holly Uncensored. It's our off-air podcast that we do 3 times a week on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Holly, where can people find other places to listen to our other podcasts? I'll write myself a to-do note.
Okay, so if you have the iHeartRadio app, and you can find it in other places too, but like the iHeartRadio app is a really good place for the congregate. So you can find, like, if you love Blown Off that we do on the show, you can find just episodes of Blown Off. Or you can find every individualized segment that we do under our full show podcast, where it's like maybe you just want to hear our little silly life stories from the check-in. You can definitely find that as its own thing. Everything is individualized, or you can find the full show if you just want to sit down and without the music or the commercials, just listen to what we talked about today. There's so many different ways to listen that if you love our content and you're like, I just wish that you didn't leave Tampa or whatever, like, you can still hear it. Please know, and we would love for you to find it. So that's my little plea.
All right. I have something that I'm going to share with you all. But after that, though, there's a little topic that Holly found that we couldn't fit into the show that I wanted to bring to the podcast that we'll get to. But first, though, baby, I'm a star.
Well, yeah.
And by star, I mean, wait, what'd you say? What shady comment did you say, producer Kelvin?
I said a superstar.
Did you have a tone? Did you have a tone?
He said superstar.
I didn't say that.
I could see in your eyeballs, bitch. Well, if you don't know, especially for our new Charlotte fam, part of the Platypus Posse now, if you're listening to the podcast, I had a whole episode of a reality show with my husband Abe that Holly was in, and our old producer Scotty the Body. 100-Day Dream Home on HGTV. Now, with all the streaming wars, and it's so hard to find where things are. So it came on HGTV last year on 100-Day Dream Home. We had a house built, but now with the changeover of HBO Max to now Max, whatever that means, now the episodes are on HBO Max, aka Max. So
You're a star.
Now everybody can see it.
Is that what we're doing for the whole podcast?
Yeah, we're gonna play the whole episode.
We're just gonna watch the show.
Oh, a little watch party. Actually, that would be pretty fun.
Yeah, here's just
not for the people listening.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Here's the beginning of HGTV's 100-Day Dream Home Season 3 Honeymoon Home.
Will you marry me?
Yes.
He proposed to me on the air for all of Tampa Bay to hear.
It's great. Meet engaged couple Miguel and Abe.
Being an interracial gay couple that's about to get married is truly something special. And so we want a special house.
They need a dream home that reflects their vibrant personalities.
We want something that is super opulent.
Drive down the street and go, oh, wow.
I promise you there's no other house that has this right now.
And you know I love to hear that.
I know.
As they began their lives together as newlyweds.
Oh my God.
We never want to tell our clients that they're brand new.
Keep going.
No, you have to find it on Max.
That brings back
so good.
so many feels. Like when I see that, it like just that's such a crazy time in our lives, because it was like planning the wedding, the house, the reality show, and then towards the end of that is when this job came up. And I just remember there were times that I would leave work and just feel like the world was just closing in on me, because it was so much, and it was like all positive things. And I had to keep reminding myself of like, you're getting married, you're building a house, you possibly could be leaving this house.
Well, that was sad though. That was
It
sad because
was.
the job was exciting potentially. But that meant leaving a lot of great stuff behind.
Yeah. And it was just such a conflicting, confusing time that I feel like I've just now this spring, a year later, sort of come through the surface of water and been like, all right, I can now start to like make sense of everything that happened. That like I am married, I have a forever partner, we own a home, which, you know, if you followed our journey for all these years, you know, like remember back in the day, Holly, when we were with Kramer, and we would play like guess Miguel's bank account, and it would be like negative $15.
Yes,
Oh my gosh.
yes,
Like
yes.
literally.
Jesus.
And like
Yeah.
it was so to think about that to now reality now, it's mind-boggling sometimes that like
I
this is
get
the
it.
progression of life.
I know. Life will throw you some crazy ass curveballs,
It
like
is.
good and really bad, and you just have to navigate them. That's what it's all about.
Right. Did y'all ever like when you were younger, like I remember I would stare at like this is how weird I was. Like I would stare at my face in elementary school and middle school and be like, I wonder what I'll look like when I'm like in my 30s. I wonder what my life will be. And this weekend when I was in New York and one of our friends took a picture of me as I was at the Italian restaurant, and like my hair is different, like there's gray in my beard, I had my glasses on, and I'm like 13-year-old Miguel could not even comprehend what 37-year-old Miguel would look like at this point.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. Because I was gonna say no, but I think yes. I think same because I hated how I looked so much that I just wanted to be quote unquote pretty.
Mm.
But I think that I am very lovely now. Like I really think I'm quite beautiful, and I love that I can feel that way about myself because I know a lot of people cannot. And I would wish the opposite for you. But I'm not saying like, oh, look at me, I'm so hot. And I think that's the disclaimer, I guess, that we have to put on. But I think that I really appreciate who I morphed into, both inside and out. And I will say about like, oh, the dream of radio or whatever. When I was young, I always felt like I was meant for something big. And I guess maybe a lot of kids do, or maybe they don't. I don't know, but I always felt like there was something more. And that feeling got stronger and stronger like through high school, and I was like into musicals and drama and stuff, and I was like I'm going to be like famous. I'm going to be a famous actress or a singer or whatever. I didn't know. But I just felt like I was destined for big things, and I didn't know what that meant because I couldn't visualize it. But then when I started working in radio, and one of the things, by the way, this is stupid. This is like a lame kid thing, but I was like, because my birthday is on January 1st, I was like, well, that is indicator number one. I'm born on
it's a
the
special day.
right. I was like, I'm born on the first date. Like, that's pretty huge. Like, I'm special. I think everybody thinks they're special, but like, and you should though. And so I think that because you are going to be great in whatever way you become great in. And so when I started in radio, it was like in a little dumpy sack of a building. Like, I think it had previously been a dentist's office on like a first floor, like whatever. Radio stations are not the impressive thing that you think they are. And we've talked about this on the podcast before. But I wanted to and I was in this like cornfield of Ohio in Findlay. And I wanted to work in Cleveland, which is where I'm from, a suburb of Cleveland, because I was like, that's like a big city. And I visited the Cleveland radio station once to like shadow the promotions director, because I was a promotions director. And of course, I had no idea what I was doing. So I'm like, well, let me go find someone who does. And so I did. And I rode the elevator up to like the 10th floor. And I was like, I want to do this.
City
and then
girl.
Sometimes I get on the elevator here and go up to the 6th floor. And like, spoiler, I'm in Tampa most times. I look out at this building is incredible. And I can see the entire skyline of Tampa Bay. And I'm like it's both not a thing and a huge thing at the same time. Like, it's huge because I'm like, holy shit, I did it. Like I somehow I clawed and scratched and cried my way up this ladder from like, the grief of going through the hell that we went through. to get here, and I fucking did it.
Yeah.
But then sometimes I'm just like, man, I kind of knew I would do it, I guess.
Mm,
Here we are. I'm here.
Period.
It's weird. It's a weird double feeling, but I'm just very grateful most of all.
I've told this to one friend, which we're not friends with anymore.
Oh.
But I did tell him one time, I was like, I don't picture myself old. I don't know if I'm going to last that long. And I know
Like
that
you'll
sounds
die?
dark. I don't know if it's die, but I'm assuming maybe that's what I meant at that time. But I don't know. I just don't see myself older. I don't know why. I don't think it has anything to do with like aesthetics and like I just don't want to get old, blah blah blah. But I don't know. I just cannot picture it. But going on the career route, uh, I too felt like I was a star. Like in high school, middle school, elementary, high school, I was it. Like I was the one where in English class we had to recite some, some poetry or whatever. They were like, "Oh, here comes Kelvin, the theater kid. He's gonna
Right.
do it." And I go up there and I fucking slayed it. And then when I got to college, same thing. I was in the production route, but every time we needed an actor, I'll fucking do
Yeah.
it. I'll be your
Yeah.
star in your show. And then as I got into the real world, into like actual radio, it was so different. I became the tiniest fish after working with some pretty big heavyweights in the building. DJ Laz, somebody who is very well known in Miami, and Kimmy B, who is another one who is very, very, very seasoned. And that very much intimidated me. But I did also think I always knew I was going to get in the building. I didn't know when, I didn't know how. At the DMV, like, some of my story, I fucking talked to every single person. What connection could I make? And then when I finally hit morning radio, I got into imposter syndrome immediately because it was everything that I wanted, but I didn't feel like I deserved it.
Mm.
And on paper, I think anybody could agree and say, no, I did not deserve it at the time. That doesn't mean that I'm not talented or hardworking. It just meant that I feel like COVID and the pandemic kind of really accelerated, and also time and luck, obviously, but it really accelerated my career.
Mhm.
I went straight to mornings. I never got my own night show, a midday show, or an afternoon show at that. And I felt like I could have really learned a lot during that time to have that kind of like my own show situation or, career. So being skyrocketed to mornings kind of juggled a lot of things in my mind and still does till this day. Like I'm on another morning show now. And this is a very well-oiled machine as well. And I'm learning a lot quickly. So yeah,
It's
weird.
weird to talk about.
And by the way,
Yeah.
just for you listening, because you're like, wait, why? What? You just go to mornings? Well, like usually in the radio industry, when you start out, especially back in the day, you'd like do the overnights between like
Yes.
midnight and 6 a.m. before the morning show came in. Then they would move you to mornings and then afternoons or middays. And then if you wanted to do it, you would get moved to mornings if there were an opening somewhere, if that's where your career, was headed.
Right.
But I mean, I think if you have to look at it like this, like I always knew I wanted to do mornings. Like I knew that like in the radio world, we call it being a jock. When you hear the person talking between songs and middays or
And it would
afternoons.
be midday, afternoon. And I started on weekends. Like weekends is just a whole full-time thing.
Yeah.
Even though it's not.
Right.
It's not
Right.
It's a part-time, but like that's the thing. You're the weekend
Mhm.
person.
And that's what I did. I did weekends when I was doing promotions in Savannah. And then I was producing a conservative news talk morning show. And then I was like filling in all over the place. And then after a year, that's when I went and worked with Holly and Kramer in Panama City. But like to me, I never thought that I skipped anything. I just knew like I'm in mornings. Like that was just to me, I knew that I was never good enough to like talk up 8 seconds of a song and do it really well with personality. I'm like, girl, my personality is too much to contain in 8 seconds. Like I knew I needed a path somewhere to be able to connect, to tell stories, to help celebrate people, to help relate to people.
Right.
But in that time, especially in Panama City, I learned a lot of the basics of like how a radio station is built, from the ground up when it comes to music and promotions and all the stuff behind the scenes, that we never talk about. So
Right.
don't discount your experience because you did do things, just because you didn't have that traditional quote unquote, which nothing is traditional in radio.
It's just different. And I think it's a lot different nowadays.
Yeah, it is a different era of radio. Like I've been in the industry for about 5 or 6 years now, and I can tell you my first 2 years are nothing like these last 2 years. I started in 2017, end of 2017 till 2023. Now, 2 different eras
Well,
in just a span
radio
of
has
5
changed.
years. It's just a span of 5 to 6 years.
Right.
So I feel like I've experienced a lot.
Well,
just with it.
that's sort of what I tell, for those of you that are new from Charlotte and the Platypus Posse, our old producer, Scotty, like he was our little like side intern, part-time person who he wasn't technically supposed to be working with us, but we saw something in him, and so he slowly, and then we were just like, you're on the show. We didn't tell anybody.
No, we didn't ask nobody. We were just
Nope.
like, hey, you're gonna be called producer Scotty. Or
Yeah.
whatever. Did we call him that? No, we just called him
At first,
intern.
he was associate producer Scotty the Body.
That's right.
Girl, I just literally pulled that from my app. I remember.
We just made up titles and like nobody questioned anything. They didn't care what we were doing. No, literally nobody cared what we were doing. So they were just like, I mean, okay.
Let me tell you, here's how this whole thing transpired. Like literally, we had him in the studio because he wanted to shadow, and then I remember it was because it was in the springtime of 2018, I believe.
God, it was a long time. I can't believe it was that long.
And I just remember you did some topic about like women at that time. It was dad bods or like muscular bods or whatever. And our producer Ryan at the time had a dad bod. Scotty was still in college. He did not. And I was literally like, let's take a picture, take a poll. Out of nowhere, I was like, we're going to call you associate producer Scotty the Body.
Yeah.
And then he was associate producer Scotty the Body. That was it. And then we took staff pictures that fall. Didn't ask a single person. And I was like, Scott's going to take pictures with us. He's going to be on the show.
Scott's in the pictures. I mean, Ryan can be in the picture, but we knew Ryan was trying to exit. Like Ryan was the producer at the time.
Right.
And Ryan was like, I cannot keep doing this. Ryan was so ready to go. And that's like, he had a calling. And so he just had to kind of set himself up for it. But we knew he was on the way out. So we were like, get everybody in here. And
come on, girl. We're a 4-person morning show.
Yeah, right? We had 4 people on the show. They were like, no, what? It's supposed to be Miguel and Holly. Who the fuck are these people? And we're like, it's fine. And then after he left, we just chopped off his picture and we still used it. The one with the 3 of us. That's what you do. You make sure there's a little space. I mean,
but that's fine. Radio for you. You just sort of like put it together. So that's why I always say, like, there is no traditional route. Like, they're never going to come to us here and be like, hey, would y'all like to add another person for help on the show? It'll literally be a situation like that when we are in a place where we're doing okay. No one's paying attention to us anymore. It's not a fire drill because, we're still getting our sea legs.
Right.
The people got to keep an eye on those whippersnappers.
Right. We're still trying to figure our way through everything here in Charlotte. And there'll come a day where they're worrying about somebody else. And then we'll be like, look. We have associate producer Jessica here who goes to UNC Charlotte. And then they'll be like, who is Jessica? Where does she come from?
Do we need to pay her? We're like her money's coming out of the promo side.
It's fine. It's fine.
Promo person.
Don't worry about it. But that's the thing that I get scared about too in this industry. And we'll cap it here so we don't bore you with radio talk. But like the few of the promotions kids that I've met here, girl, none of them want anything to do with radio. They're like, oh, the music industry or marketing, or they do like podcasting with iHeartRadio, but not being on an actual broadcast frequency.
It. Well, honestly, it is tough.
Yeah.
Like podcasting is so much easier. Right. Obviously, you have the constraints of being on a radio show. Unless your show is fully just talk.
Right.
It is so much more difficult to put on a music-based morning show because of the time constraints, because of the content constraints, because of whatever the consultants say that you need to do, you do it. Like it's hard. I don't know that you would really with so many more options for people coming up nowadays, such as podcasting or just social media, period. YouTube, TikTok. They're going to do that. And so that's why radio had the problem of like, oh, well, let's get some influencers on the radio. Well, the influencers are like, fuck this. I'm going to go back to influencing.
Well, and the problem with that, too, is that like what I just really hit me the other day is I was like, why is it that like some people with podcasts that I've never heard of, they'll have like 200,000 followers or something like that on Instagram. And like outside of you being like a Elvis Duran or Ryan Seacrest or like a nationally syndicated, even people that are in a big top 10 market like a Boston or something, they are only capped at like 50 or 60,000 followers or something like that. Or their podcast and like the top podcast that, reach America, you never see like a radio show up there unless it's Elvis, Bobby Bones, or the Breakfast Club.
Yep.
You don't see anybody else. And I was like, why is that? And it just hit me the other day. It's about niche. Think about it. Our entire lives in radio is to reach the biggest possible audience with the broadest message possible. So like we never go really deep into stuff on the air, like on the podcast we do, but on the show, we're never like, you don't want to be too offensive. You don't want to, turn anyone off. You want everyone to listen. You want to be as broad as possible.
Well, because you have a boss.
Right.
You have a company that you are quote unquote representing. And that's why you can't be too offensive. Like, they'll just fire you for someone that is more compliant.
Where so you think about our friend to the show, and she once did promotions for us. Sharon, her podcast, or it was a YouTube channel, just Sharon. And now like she's got like over 500,000 subscribers on there. They featured her on Sex and the City the first season.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. Good for her.
So proud. Or even Adam the Flop. We've had him on the podcast, who you've probably seen his behind. He did promotions for us in Tampa. So I was like, these kids have these massive followings. It's because they have a very narrow niche audience. But here's the thing is that like that's successful and hopefully profitable for them. But you could not take what Sharon or Adam the Flop does and make it a 4-hour radio show daily every day.
It's got to be snackable.
Right. And so that's the problem and the good thing with radio people wanting to have the reach that these podcasters with niche podcast or social influencers have, because it's not niche. We're very broad and open about everything.
We're the jack of all trades.
Right.
We have to be good at a bunch of other different little things instead of just focusing on one thing.
What would be your respective niches?
So actually, I think I've been narrowing mine down because I think I've been saying this for probably 4 years that I want to do a podcast. But like nothing has really like made me say I want to carve out time to do it, because I thought I wanted to do something about like gay life with like also like daily news, political stuff involved, and get like a round table of some of my, good Judies to like pipe in. And then I was like, I just feel like that would be hard to maintain for me, I think.
Right. Yeah.
So I feel like I've narrowed down on something, and it's just over the past couple of weeks. But now I'm trying to like plot out what this sounds like in my head and what it looks like. Something called Miguel's People. There's nothing more I love than what does everyone make fun of me for when I meet someone new? You gonna give him the Oprah style interview. Here come Miguel. He about to ask you about your childhood trauma and what happened to you.
Yeah.
I'm just so fascinated by how people get to where they are.
Yeah.
So like I'd love to have like Mayor Vi Lyles here in Charlotte. Like I find her so fascinating because she is such, from the brief interaction we had, such a like feel good. When I talked to her, she had that like there's only one person in the room. But in order to be a mayor of a major city, you also have to have political chops and to be able to get some shit done.
Yeah.
And so to me, I'm like, what's your background? Where'd you go to school? Who are your parents? How did you get to this? Where do you want to go? So I'm thinking of doing something called Miguel's People, where I interview someone that I just find fascinating. It could be a dignitary, or I find one of the concierges at my apartment, this one lady, so fascinating because like bitch tells the truth all the time. Because like I'll be going to get my mail and I'll be like, hey, Miss Candace. And she's like, these motherfucking people think that I'm the motherfucking maid. I've been working for 6 days, and someone come in and she'll be like, hey Judy, how you doing? It's so good to see you.
That stresses me out. I'm like, that's how people think of me. I'm just not gonna say anything to anybody. That would be an interesting interview.
But like, I want to know because like she has like some neck tattoos that like kind of get covered up by her hair, and I'm like, girl, who are you? Like, where'd you come from? So I want to do something called Miguel's People, I think.
Miguel's Super Friends.
Yes. So that's
I
my
like
idea.
that. I like that.
Holly, what would be your niche?
Oh man. Well, I just feel like everyone's like, do the podcast. I feel like I'm gonna do like one episode and then be like, I'm sick of this. Like I am lazy at my core, I think. Or maybe it's perfectionism disguised as laziness. I don't know.
I like that.
But
Same.
yeah.
I'll own that.
Yeah. So I think it's a lot of that. And I don't know if I would feel like I buckle under the weight of like expectation for like the next and the next and the next. But I think it has to be something particularly mental health. And I've tossed around like, what is it like being the partner of someone with bipolar? Different mental health things. But the problem is everyone's like, oh, you could have all these different people on your show. And I'm like, I don't really want all these people different on my show. Like, I just want to talk.
Right.
But I'm like, but who really wants to listen to that? I have had people say like they would want to hear a podcast about like parenting stuff because I really spend a lot of time trying to figure out how to be the best parent and like, but also there's like some judgmental thoughts I have about other people's parenting. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to say that because then people would cancel me.
No,
I'm just
you
afraid of being
should.
canceled. And like, I'm just afraid. There's a lot of fear, but I don't know. Something like that thing about the bipolar person, the thing about like parenting, and maybe even like stuff about like unpacking some stuff with my mom. I could have experts on, and I might eventually, like, when I say, I mean like sporadically. I don't want to have an expert on every single podcast. Because that's a lot of prep and that's a lot of like now suddenly it's like a whole second job and now I'm like it's too much. I'm not going to do it. Like I don't have time. I don't want to do it because I get approximately 2 hours in between this job and my quote unquote second job of parenting when I get home. Like I have a couple hours and then I'm like, gotta go pick up Maya. And that starts like the whole second part of my day, which is a job. But I also feel guilty for saying that because like other people have like 5 kids. I have 1 kid. But I strive not to be on my phone and doing other things because she'll call me out on it and then I'll feel like shit. So it's just a lot of work for me. And I think I struggle with parenting where other people find it really easy. And I get sometimes jealous of like new moms that are just like zipping out to the grocery store, no big deal, baby thrown in the back. And I'm like, oh my God, I was really struggling. So I don't know. I could talk about all of that. I think I'm afraid. And I think I would want it to be perfect. And then I would get really frustrated when it's not. And then I would stop. But one day, maybe. I've been saying one day for like 5 years now, by the way. By the way, I feel like I also could have had a degree in psychology by now, like with all of the learning and stuff that I've done.
I feel like you should tap into the things that you're really good at. I mean, you just said this yesterday or 2 days ago about how you love Queen City Confessions.
I love it.
I feel like
favorite.
Get people to do the prep for you. Like they send you in some of their most personal stories. And granted, that may, it might be a little triggering. I don't know. But I feel like you handle when people come to you for advice pretty well. And I feel like you give some really insightful, juicy little tidbits in that sense. And it involves mental health. And I feel like that's where you would shine. And that's where I think your podcast could be like 10 minutes per episode. And do a confession or some sort of secret or I need help on this certain mental health matter.
Like when people used to write for like Dear Abby, they'd be like, help me figure this out. And I'd be like, okay, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Do it.
And then you could also mix it up too and be like, it could be a 10 to 15 minute episode podcast. It never has to be,
I think
40,
about like,
50,
oh my God, 30 to 45 minutes. It feels like that's so much content to fill.
Yeah.
I listen to 3 podcasts a day. They're all 16 or 20 minutes or less.
Oh, really?
Nice.
Oh, that's awesome.
The one I listen to in the morning when I'm getting ready is usually 18 minutes or less, and it's like the news one. And then when I leave here, I listen to either the New York Times, the Daily, or Vox's Explained. And now, like I used to do this because I'm just me, where I'd be like, I have to listen to everyone every day, no matter what, even if I don't like it. But now I'm like, ooh, do I like either of those topics? No. Okay. Well, I'll go to my audiobook. But both of those are usually 25 minutes or less. And so those are like the 3 that I like. I, usually do every day. And then I have ones that are longer that I do once or twice a week. But yeah, it doesn't have to be. It can be as short or as that's the beautiful thing about podcasts. And like, mark my words, if we ever got let go from here and we were having a time to like find another job, I've already in my mind, like there's a button I'd push and it would be like the Miguel and Holly universe.
I have
Like,
considered that as well.
You know,
Like,
here's what we would do.
I'm ready to roll that out whenever. Like,
Right.
you just let me know.
Just
Put
be
my
like-
sales heels on and I'll go sell that shit.
Okay. We'll
By
go out and
myself.
get our own advertising and shit like that and be like, girl, bye.
Period.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it can be as long or as short as you want.
Yeah.
That's good. Okay, so that's helpful because the length too is like a really scary thing.
And, you know, maybe what we should do too is sort of like, you know, offline is this fall, you know, start to get together. What does that look like? Because I really do, now that I've sort of honed in on what it is that I want to do, start to like, all right, let's start plotting out what does that look like? Is it a weekly? Is it a bi-weekly? You know, I'd love to make it not current heavy, or if it was, I could like do the interview and then like, you know, here are my final thoughts on here's what happened this week in the world or something. I don't know, but figure out, like, plan it out and then start to get things in place to try to make it debut in the new year.
You mean interviews with people?
Right. So like,
Or
let's
like,
say,
are you talking about you were going to do current events?
no, well, that's the thing. I got to figure it out. I don't know.
Right.
Like, I
Oh.
don't know if I want my podcast to be like, let's say I, throughout the course of 1 week, I interview the mayor and blah, 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 blah. And then 2 months from now, I debut the interviews, you know, but then each week, depending upon the week, to make it somewhat topical, I do like a, here's the interview. And then also let's just do a quick discussion about here's something that's on my mind this week that's happening in the world.
Within the same
Like
episode, or would there be sprinkled in?
Possibly.
episodes?
I don't know. We got to figure it out.
you get the best of both worlds.
Mm-hmm.
You get to have your own solo ones or have those really interesting guests, and whatever you're in the mood for, you can do. And I feel like both would be great products either way.
Yeah,
If
I
you have
agree.
some
I
shit
think-
to
I
say,
like
Miguel
both.
will say it.
Right.
Because like people
So-
want to know about you too, and I don't want to discount that. Even like when I was talking about, I don't want experts on every one of my podcasts because I think you're the draw.
Right.
Like,
Right.
don't discount that. Like, sure, they want to hear about the mayor and the UPS delivery guy that dropped your wine off and whoever else, but like they really want to know your thoughts too. It's you know,
Right.
it's your podcast.
Yeah.
100%. 100%.
And a looser version too.
Right. Right.
The one that's at Argonne.
Mm-hmm.
Very
Wait,
loose gay
Kelvin.
bar.
So what's your niche? What is your thing?
So I have been working on a project that I, once again, a perfectionist / lazy.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's I think it's a perfectionist disguised as laziness.
It's
I
also
think.
a lot of pressure because one, I've never had. It's made up pressure, right? Because I don't think nobody actually truly cares. I think it's more for myself. But
Sure.
I have never done a project for myself on my own. I've always attached myself to someone else's, and I've always been comfortable with that. I do love doing that. I love helping people to get closer to their vision. But for me, myself, I've never done something on my own. And so I'd like to do my podcast, and I do have a name for it, and I will be doing it with Oscar, my fiance.
Mm.
I was the one that was like, I want to do this, and I want to do anonymous things, and I want to do this, and and he was like, why don't we just simplify it? Let's just talk about our journey with mental health, talk about the shit that is going on in our relationship,
Mhm.
and let's just leave it at that. And let's just talk about it. And if we ever want people on, we can, depending on the topic. And I was like, simple sounds good. Simple sounds good. It sounds doable. It sounds manageable.
Well, that's what you just told me.
Yeah, exactly
I
that.
mean-
But I'm not taking my own advice.
Right.
And then the other thing is, it's different. It's different if it's different for me to be the main number one host in this kind of talk format, because I've done the morning show thing where I've been the second mic, and it's always been bounced back to me to give my response. But I've never really just kind of, coordinated and organized the whole conversation. And that's the position that I would be in. And so Oscar and I have recorded a few episodes where, like, the first few ones, we were really in a bad place, headspace. And the episodes didn't sound good. So I wasn't encouraged to really edit them. And so a few months later, I was like, let's go back. We're in a better place. We recorded the episodes. They're good. But now I feel like I'm in an even better place. And I also have the pressures of designing, writing the descriptions, marketing it, doing truly everything, which I told Oscar, I don't want you to feel bad about that because this is my world and this is what I'm comfortable in. But
Mhm.
it's a lot of pressure to kind of really handle everything and coordinate everything.
Yeah.
But we do have this podcast that will be coming out this year. I just have to
Mm.
figure it out, but it will be based on us and our conversations that we have. I think my fiance is incredibly insightful and smart and gives some of the best advice, and we have some of the best conversations. And I think that that's what we want to put out. So
I think also too, just because I love formatting of stuff like that, because that's what I do every day is I format like how are we going to talk about something.
Right.
Is I just envisioned like a almost diary of your relationship, you know, because it's going to look so different 6 months from now, a year from now, 5 years from now. So I just envision like you two, like every episode you're talking about the similar thing, but from your perspective. So like, let's say y'all had a big fight about something that happened at Trader Joe's. And so it's like, you've written out like, dear diary, Oscar pissed me off because he couldn't decide on Olive, blah, 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 blah. And you know what? That triggered me because my mom never could choose what the fuck she wanted. So I would have to sit and wait for her.
Right.
And then he's like, dear diary, da, da, da. And then you two discuss your perspectives. And so it's like you sort of get to see how you two looked at one situation, but how you both come at it from not only your perspective, because in a relationship, that's what you learn is everyone is coming to an argument or a disagreement from their own traumas. And so it's part of a relationship is understanding where that person is coming from and then discussing what can we do better. And it's like you keep doing that till you die. So anyway, that's just something.
That's a really great fucking idea, actually.
As you were talking, I'm like, I feel like that would be so fascinating to listen to a couple do that, because then I think that's also relatable and would help other couples sort of be like, wow, because I feel like whenever I've been asked to help friends in a situation, I'm always like, okay, you realize that no one is truly wrong here. It's just that y'all are coming at it from different perspectives and points of views.
I love that.
I think that would be amazing, but I think that's a little bit of a difficult undertaking for a couple because you'd have to obviously do each part separate, and it would be like weekly therapy that can get heavy because then you're going to each listen to each other and be like, bitch, that's not what I thought you said, like, or whatever, you know, or so it could potentially be difficult, but it would be so worth it in the long run. I like that a lot. It would be different. Just know that it would be some bumpy waters, especially at first when you're not used to being so vulnerable without each other and then combining it. Yeah.
Yeah. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to write that down, bitch.
I love plotting out some shit.
I'll send you that check.
Yes.
When it clears.
All right. Real quick before we get out of here for the long weekend. This came out. Someone posted a list of 40 things. And if you did any of them growing up, you're old.
Wait, I don't appreciate that. I don't. Old.
Yep. So basically, if you're listening and you're a Gen Z, like especially a young Gen Z, you'd be like, what the fuck? By the way, before I go down this list, I just recently was looking at stats from, I think, my Instagram and the Miguel and Holly Instagram. And it's just so funny how our audience, in my audience, you listening, Platypus Posse, Miguel and Holly fan members are getting older with us. So like, I remember 5-6 years ago, whenever analytics came out and it was like 90% of our people that followed us, it was like between the ages of like 25 and 35. Now it's 35 and 45. Like that's
no.
But like 25 and 35 is like right below it though.
Okay.
But it's interesting how as you're getting older, we're getting older, you know?
Yes.
Right.
And don't get me wrong, like I love that. And actually that's what I want. And I want, you know, people in the 25-35 demographic to still continue to come in. I just say, oh no, because I know how radio execs think. And they're like, well, you need to reach the younger demo.
You're aged out. Go to easy.
Yeah.
Here we go. We're
Get
gonna
on the light rock station.
go on to the Dove
Today's soft hits.
or here the lake.
Stop.
All right. If you did any of these things growing up, you're old.
Okay.
Using a pencil to rewind a cassette tape. Did you do that, Holly?
Yes, of course I did. Because if it accidentally comes out, you just did anybody else? Did y'all do that?
Oh,
No.
100%. Producer
Kelvin
Kelvin,
doesn't
did you
even know
ever
what cassette tapes are.
did you use cassette tapes at all?
No.
Not
Okay.
at all. All right, just for reference, I'm 37. I'll be 38 in August. Holly,
I'm 41.
producer Kelvin.
29, and I'm turning 30 in a month.
Oh,
Yeah.
All right.
30 is a fun one. Yeah.
Hearing someone yell, "Get off the internet! I need to use the phone."
Yes.
No, I never had that problem because I only went on the internet after my parents were like asleep. I was like afraid to
Holly
like
was
do
in them
internet
chat
things.
rooms, girl.
I mean,
She was in them
I got some chat rooms.
spicy
That
chat rooms.
websites take
into
30
too much
minutes to load that
crazy
first
stuff.
page.
Wait, Holly, what was your name? Coco Chanel online back in the day,
No.
or Coco Lopez?
It wasn't. That was just a YouTube handle that I had at one point because I was really into these like banana mamas that I had on my honeymoon, and they used Coco Lopez coconut milk in it.
Mhm.
So I just thought that was whatever. No, my username on AOL Instant Messenger was Holly Berry.
Oh, because she got them sweet berries.
No, there was a lady at work named Rita who always had really fantastic fingernails. That was when I worked at Arby's Unit 10. And Rita was like, "Oh, Holly Berry." And I was like, I don't know if she was trying to call me Halle Berry or if she just thought Holly Berry was cool, but I took it and ran with it.
I like it.
Cars that needed two different keys, one to unlock the door and a different key to start the engine.
Yes.
Holly?
I brought this up to the group earlier. Did y'all have that?
I did never.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
sure my mom and my grandmother did, but it was before I was driving.
I didn't
I
even know
did.
that was a thing.
Yes, it was a thing. My first
Okay.
car was a 1989 Chevy Beretta. It was Tim O'Connor's before it was mine, and I thought it was so badass. It was black with like a red racing stripe down the side.
Yeah.
2 doors. The doors weighed like a ton each.
Oh
It
my
was like
gosh.
all metal. And I thought it was so cool, but you had to have there's the key and then there's whatever part you hold with your fingers to turn it. I don't know what that part's called,
Mm-hmm.
but that part was round for the key to get into it. And then on your keychain, the one that was square was the one that turned the ignition on. And I kept the round one in my purse as like a good luck charm for years.
Oh.
I might still even have it. I don't know. But anyway, you had the two different keys. It was you were screwed either way. You either could turn the car on but not get in it, or you could get in the car and not turn it on if you were missing one or the other.
Bless
Sorry.
ya.
Sorry. I'm trying to think because my grandmother, she bought her. I really just remember my grandmother having the Corolla she bought in '96, and it was like a super brand new like Toyota Corolla.
Mm-hmm. I had a 96 Toyota Corolla. No, it was Toyota Tercel.
Oh,
After I had the Beretta, I had a Toyota Tercel. That's why I called it the Tercel.
a Tercel. Got my
And
Tercel.
I hated it. I felt like it looked like lame. And my mom like swapped him out under my eyes. Like I was very blessed, obviously, because my parents got me that car. And she was like, because the old Beretta was like rusting apart. And then while I was like away in college, she gave away the Beretta and then she spent $5,000. I don't know how they had scraped together between her, my stepdad, and my dad had scraped together $5,000 to buy this Toyota Tercel.
Oh.
And I was so ungrateful. I hated it. I hated it.
No.
I was like, this car makes me look so lame. And they're like, we don't care about that. So you're welcome.
Would have taken your neck and swung you against the wall. They were, oh my God, can you imagine your parents were like so excited and then just teenage Holly's like,
I was like, well, I
Man.
felt like such a badass in that Beretta. And my mom's like, it was unsafe. And I was like, but all right. I mean, I drove it, obviously.
like, isn't that so funny? Because then how many times has it happened and will continue to happen with your daughter where
Yes.
you'll like do these big overtures for her and then she's like, that's it? Ugh.
Yes, I know. And it makes me
Oh
so
my
mad now.
God.
So in that way, I understand when your parents are like, just wait till you have kids. Or
Oh
whatever.
my God, yes.
because I'll like do a thing and I'll think that it's gonna be cool, and then Maya's like,
Really?
"Oh, it's gonna be different," and I'm like, "Sorry that I did a
Sorry,
nice
I
thing."
tried.
That's
All right.
how kids are.
Here's another thing. If you did growing up, you are now old. When everyone's favorite treat was push-up pops, where you basically ate ice cream out of a toilet paper roll.
I love.
Remember a push-up pop?
The Flintstones.
Yes.
The Flintstones, I think, push
I
up pop. They were
kn-
always like orange flavored.
Ugh. Do you
Or
remember
maybe
those,
red.
Kelvin?
I think I do.
Like you could push it up
Yeah.
the thing with a little stick at the bottom.
Yeah.
It was like
Oh,
almost
I know what you're talking about.
sherbet. I
Yes.
loved those.
Ice cream truck stuff.
Ugh.
Yeah. Do
Yeah.
they still make them? What do you mean? Ugh.
I think you know how like there's two things from my childhood that I remember having that I just for some whatever reason being a kid your stomach wasn't well and I threw up after eating it, and so whenever I see it like takes me back to being
You
like
threw up after a push pop?
and it was it was orange
Orange creme.
and I just remember this is like before I moved to Denver, so I was like probably 6 or 5.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it was. I just remember us being outside and throwing up in front of everybody and just being like, I could not eat one of those again.
That's it. That's a picture. You put a picture for those listening. Miguel, put a picture of them on the screen. Yes,
The
those are
orange ones.
absolutely it.
What's the
I
flavor of the
loved
orange
those.
ones?
Orange.
Yeah, it was just orange. Yeah.
Thank you.
Is this like orange cream? I don't
Ugh.
know.
Like
I
I'm just
loved
getting like I
those.
want to throw up right now. Like,
So, like that happened to Maya with peanut butter, and
Mhm.
she has gone from I hate peanut butter to telling people she's allergic. I'm like, you are not
Oh my god.
allergic.
Peanut butter is amazing.
Oh my
I know.
God.
One time she threw up after she ate. You ever see those little Jif peanut butter balls you can buy in a container? They're
Yes.
sweet. She ate the whole damn container when she was like 4.
Oh.
And then she threw up, and then she's like, I hate peanut butter. I'm like, well, that's because you ate the whole.
Right. Oh.
No, it's done. It's like that to me, push-up pops, and I had I threw up
Chocolate
chocolate
milk.
milk. Yep.
Which is a shame because that's delicious.
Can't do it.
I love chocolate.
Ugh. Let's see here. Printing out your directions from MapQuest. If you're over 60, you might still do that one.
Well,
This is this list. I didn't say that. Also having a notebook where you kept track of all your friends' phone numbers.
I had a little address book.
Yep, I have
Mhm.
that because during the school year, the little agendas that you would get, I would always write down people in my class's phone numbers, or they would have like the directory that you'd have everyone's number. If you wanted to watch a movie, you had to switch to channel 3. That was back before TVs had different input options because
Yes.
channel 3 would hook up
Mhm.
to the VCR.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Or like the Nintendo. I think that might have been channel 4 though, or what it was 3 or 4. If you want to play Nintendo, you had to switch the TV to that channel.
Yes.
Then you
Mhm.
could play Nintendo.
The red,
After you-
yellow, and white cords.
Yes.
Yes.
And if you take it way back to like the big ass TVs that sat on the floor,
That were like
the, like,
fancy.
yes, with like the speakers and stuff, but it
Yeah.
had like a little dial that you would turn,
Yes.
and then you would hit like UHF or whatever the other one was.
Yes.
I don't remember what the options were.
I don't either, but now I remember that. And with like the TV static would come on one of
Yes.
the channels. Oh
I
man,
can't believe we had that. I just remembered that.
Mhm.
Those big ass TVs with a big wide
And
back.
Yes.
you could put
my
like,
God.
planters and stuff
Yes,
on top
on
of it,
top.
like decorative things.
You'd have to like reach for the Bluetooth.
I have a picture on my Instagram somewhere of me standing in front of one of those TVs when I was like 4 or 5. My mom's watching like All My Children. But you
Yes.
can just see the big, and she had all these plants and stuff over it.
Mhm.
All right. Another one of these things, if you did this growing up, you're old, accidentally burning yourself with the car's cigarette lighter. Now the holes now the holes where they used to be are just for plugging in chargers.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was weird because I would always try to in my grandparents' car they had this, and you'd push it in and then it would wait and then it would pop back out
Yep.
like literally red hot, and it was
Jesus.
used as like light cigarettes or whatever.
Yeah.
But you just wanted to try it. You just want to push it in and see what
Right.
happened.
And my mom had one in hers because my mom was a smoker. And so she would have the ashtray, and then like, because in my grandma's car, my grandmother didn't smoke. So she would just put change in hers, but my
Mhm.
mom would have ash. And so when you're young, you'd be like, oh, let's see. And then you'd be like, oh, damn it, mama smoke, girl.
Yeah, get the ashes.
Mhm.
But my dad, they had that too.
Oh, this one's going to take you back. Finding out which movies were at your local theater by checking the newspaper, or you called movie phone back in the day.
Yes. that gives you something to do too. It was
Right?
like that was an activity before the activity of the movies because you had to
Mhm.
get the paper out and you went to the entertainment section and they listed at the local one local movie theater
Oh my gosh.
all of the things, or you could call and he'd be like, "Welcome to Movie Vote" or something.
The last one, if you weren't listening to the radio, you were listening to something from your CD holder, and it was probably attached to your car's sun visor.
I still have mine in the pocket of my front seat, like in the back, because I don't know what else to do with my CDs.
I know.
I have a book of them.
Yeah.
Burn 'em.
They're in a box somewhere.
Burn 'em.
I remember one of my college rooms, I had, because this is when I was working at Barnes and Noble in the music section, and so I got a lot of, I think we got like half off or something like that. So that was the time where I just bought a bunch of CDs the summer I was working, and so my friend helped me decorate my room one year where I had all the album covers of the CDs all over my room, but he did it in such a like real like a sort of like a checkered pattern.
Oh, that's cool.
And then like the little display signs. I remember one, it was Michael Bublé, John Legend, and Alicia Keys. And like they were like plastic. They would hang up in Barnes and Noble, but they would throw them away. So that summer I would collect them all. And so I had that with the CDs. I thought I had the coolest fucking room at this time.
Well, you did. By the
Mhm.
way, speaking of those CD, you know what you're talking. I know what you're talking about, like the booklets that came in the
Yeah.
CD case.
Mhm.
I take other kids home from school with me every day of the week, different kids. And this one of the kids I take home, he's in 6th grade. And like I told you, I have my CDs still in my car because what do we do with them? They're
Right.
relics now. And I have a Fall Out Boy actual case.
Oh my
it's
gosh.
from the Follow You Do album in the passenger side door. I don't even know why. I think Maya dug it out and I'm just like, throw it over there, whatever. The CD's not in it, but it's just there. And he pulls it out and he's like, he looks at it most days and then he's like, why is this? And I'm like, well,
Yeah.
why do they have it? I'm like, well, it could be lyrics or he's like, is it to like get their autograph? I'm like, well, you're not meeting these bands. What are you talking about? Like you're reading the lyrics or you're looking at what they look like in real life. And he's like, why don't you just look at the internet? And I'm like,
Oh
Yeah.
no.
oh God.
Get
I'm
out.
like, just put it down. Just put it down. So it was very
I mean, that's true though. I mean, if you are a kid now, like
you
Maya's
don't
age,
comprehend what you're seeing from adults a lot of the
Right.
time.
but you know
'cause
what?
it's moved
That's
so fast.
sad because remember, like that was part of the allure of getting something from your favorite artist, like going
Yeah.
and getting the CD booklet and like seeing the visuals and the artwork or the
Mhm.
era for whatever that was.
Right.
What outfits they were wearing.
Yeah. And
The
now,
thank yous to the fans and like their producers and stuff.
right. And it's like now you don't get that at all. And that's just so sad. I just thought about last night we were watching the Tina Turner movie or documentary on HBO Max. And one of the scenes was when Tina Turner reached like her second peak when she was just Tina Turner, not with Ike. And when she was at the zeitgeist of pop culture. And there was like a news clipping of this woman in like 87 or something. And she was like, I told my boyfriend to go stand in line for tickets. And he's been standing in line for 6 hours. And I said, if he didn't get those tickets, I'd break up with him. And our friend, Leighton, who's 27, he was like, wait, what? His knowledge of buying tickets for concerts is all online.
Right.
But remember back
Yeah.
in the day, you would have to like go down to the venue the morning that they were open.
Yes.
And hopefully you had the opportunity to and wait in line to buy tickets.
And then hopefully it didn't sell out. Because if it didn't sell out, then they would sell tickets at the grocery store.
Right.
And you had to get them from the grocery store.
Like it's crazy to think about how much things have changed in that time. How like, I mean, we don't even get, I mean, even at the radio station before 2020, you would still have to come and get physical tickets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now we just email you tickets to everything.
Mm-hmm.
I know. I hate that we don't have tickets, by the way, because I have a little box at my house that I knew I would want to keep my ticket stubs from all the concerts I went to at work.
Yeah.
And I have all of them all through my career, or any cool lanyards or like the meet and greet stickers that the record labels would give you, autographed stuff. And I kept them all in this box. And it's like, sometimes I'll go to a concert. I think this happened with Lizzo when we saw Lizzo in Tampa the first time, the only time I ever saw her. But And I'm like, I don't have a ticket to put in my box. What am I supposed? How am I supposed to know that I saw Lizzo?
You'll never remember.
Holly, you need something to put in your box, girl.
I was like, I'll write it down on a piece of paper and put it in the box because I need to know.
Holly needs something in her box, y'all.
Save that.
It's a pretty full box.
Before
they do a lot of concerts.
Before we go, I'm going to share just a little bit more of 100 Day Dream Home. All right. Obviously, we won't have a podcast on Monday because Memorial Day, but we will see you on Wednesday. Here's just a little bit more.
B-roll.
I'm looking forward to this one.
Oh my God, you already know I'm nervous.
We are in Westminster Heights, just outside the city of St. Pete. We are about equal distance from the beach this way or downtown St. Pete this way, right in the middle of it all.
What's going on?
Hey, Abe, how are you?
This is so weird. I'm like, I was just listening to you this morning, and now you're here. I am fangirling. We are working with a client, Miguel, who I listen to every morning in my car. He has a radio show in Tampa, and I am really a huge fan. Thank you for making my days start off on the right foot.
Thank you. I love that. That's what makes me. That's why I do what I do, to help people start their day.
Yes.
I love being able to do that.
Now, Abe, how do you make people's days?
I paint their houses and make them beautiful.
Yes.
So we've already got a painter for this house.
Wait a second. I was just about to say.
We are newly engaged. A few months ago, when I was doing my radio show, all of a sudden there was a sign that came in front of the window. Right outside of our window, our studio window, there's a sign that says, "Hey, you, come here, look down." And then there was Abe standing in the parking lot and had this whole message pre-recorded.
I can't imagine life without you. I love you, Miguel. Now get down here right now.
And he proposed to me on the air for all of Tampa Bay to hear.
Will you marry me?
Yes.
Congrats on the engagement.
Yeah,
Right
Did I tell you? I never told you this. I sent that video when it came out directly to Oscar, and I was like, "You better fucking recreate this."
Ah, no.
Wait a minute. Didn't you end up proposing to him?
Yeah, but I want to get proposed to too.
Oh, okay. I got you.
Well, you can find 100 Day Dream Home on Max, formerly of HBO Max. Producer Kelvin, what's your information?
My social is 5.
You
can follow me on
What's
TikTok.
your phone number? 305.
Girl, you won't get much. Well, actually, I have good credit. My phone number. My Instagram is @KelvinLive. You can also follow me on TikTok and Twitter.
Holly.
Hey, mine's Radio Holly, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram.
Mine is Miguel Fuller. Find me on Instagram, TikTok, and Be Real. We will see you back here on Wednesday. Bye.
Miguel and Holly Uncensored.
Catch it on the